Okay, right. So we are going to begin, as I say, from 5 lines down on Lama Chesed base. It says Itmar at the beginning of the line. And so we're going to look more deeply into the rules to do with responsibility for a field when the owner has been abducted. What do you do? Idma, it was stated, somebody who was abducted, Rav Omar, aim my reading Korivin Chosov, we do not send down an heir to cultivate his land.
That's H-E-I-R.
H-E-I-R.
Not.
No, yeah, the heir, the inheritor. Yeah, the legatee. Yeah. Shmuel Omar, my reading, we do indeed send down an heir to cultivate the land. Now, the question
does it mean that it says here a relative, but why isn't the court itself taking charge?
Well, when it says my reading, it means that the Beis Din instruct and authorize it.
Right, so they could decide who's going to do it.
Yes, and it should be an heir because if this,
an interest.
I'm sorry, exactly, yeah. So well, when they, it may well be their field. We don't know, but because if this person never has been killed, then yeah, then he belongs to him.
Needs to be heard out.
Yes, could be indeed. Yeah. So this is what we say. Marie we send him down to the to this property, to this field, and he looks after it. Now, the Gemara looks into this in a bit with these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wide lines down now. If they hear that the person who was abducted has been killed, then or died, whatever, then for sure we do send an heir down because we can rely on such a report for this sort of thing. Worst come to the worst, if it turns out the guy comes back, then he'll say, well, I want my field back, and they'll do a reckoning. On the one hand, you cultivated the land and that cost you so much in labor and equipment and manpower, whatever. On the other hand, you gained so much in produce that I would have had.
So sending it, that doesn't mean transfer ownership to the heir, does it? Is it trustee? What's the relationship?
He's kind of a trustee. It doesn't belong. I don't know if he could. Yeah. Oh, you made it.
Made it.
All his hard work.
I knew it was you, but I didn't know it was you. If you know what I mean. I know what you mean.
Have I all shiners on Kashrus and Shabbos?
All right. So where am I? Here we are. Okay, so as how is Russell. I'm so sorry, Russell. As Russell says, indeed, it doesn't mean that it belongs to this person who's cultivating. It just we send him down, and he's got the duty of cultivating it as a sort of holding pattern until we find out.
What we say? Sorry, go on, David.
If you can't, you can't. So
but if he said this relative got no idea how he's not a farmer,
right?
So how can he look?
He can hire people.
Okay, so who pays for that?
So well, presumably he'll he'll take the produce and keep it, but keep a cheshbon. So because we don't know. So as I say, one day there may be a reckoning on this. And we'll see that it goes into this in a little bit more detail, I think, as we go along.
Right. But when you say we send
yeah,
will we not go? We don't know what the situation is. He's gone missing.
Yeah.
Will we not say the nearest to as next to kin?
Well, that is the heir. That's exactly it. You're right. The heir is the next to kin. Right. Well, the halachic next to kin. That's an interesting point because a spouse is less likely to be an heir than a child, than a son, specifically. But the point is that we have a duty of care to this field because if we just leave it, it will dry out. It'll be overtaken by weeds, and it'll be a huge amount of work just to get it back to a serviceable level. So, on the other hand, if we can keep it ticking over in the meantime,
and they could say, "I'm so busy with my own business."
So employ somebody.
Surely
and-
based in direct.
Yeah.
There's
Yes,
no,
Yeah.
there's
based
no
in direct.
room for manoeuvre here.
Yes.
We're based in direct.
Absolutely.
That's the end
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
story.
yeah. But and he, as you say, he will take his wage from the field as an oris, which is a sharecropper. Exactly. as you say.
Horace. They came this morning, didn't it? Malcolm?
No, that was Alice.
Harris, sorry, West Coast enough.
No, it's not. Nowhere near the close enough.
Now then,
Aristotle. Right.
so if the person, if we heard the person died, couldn't our Lord Plicky already? Everybody agrees that you send the person down. Keep Plicky. When do Rav and Shmuel argue? But Shalai Shomer by Shemesh, they've not heard the guy's died. So if he died, we'll take that on trust and we send somebody down and off he goes. And he keeps an account of what's what. And it could be in 20 years time, the guy might pitch up, in which case
But there's no proof.
that's the whole
It's
problem.
not missing.
That's the problem. So,
That's
but on the other hand, the only thing we know for sure is that this field is going to rack and ruin. And it's a shame. You know, we want to have a duty of care to look after this guy. Look after his assets as best we can so he's got something to come back to.
Why couldn't the Beth Din appoint an actual farmer?
That's the next question. Very good, very yeah. Why not any old person? Why not? Yeah.
Okay.
And for that matter, I'll take a question further. Why does Rav say you don't send somebody down? Because it's an argument between Rav and Shmuel. Shmuel says, yes, send somebody to look after the field. Rav said no.
There's nothing there. The field is barren.
Well, it depends what you do with it.
No, exactly, but
If you
just leave it.
if you plow it and sow it, you can reap it.
Why is Ralph saying that?
That's my question. Yeah, that's exactly my point. Why would he?
But obviously, it must be why he's saying no.
There is a reason. We come on saying, yeah. So that's our next question. Why would you not? It seems such a good idea, such a lovely system.
But I don't understand Ralph saying, well, no. Why would he want it just to go and?
Yeah.
Would this extend then to the situation, say, you had a shop, a factory, a business?
Yes, it absolutely would. Yeah.
Because then
Yeah, you
You've got the
maybe
same
maybe
problem
have to advertise the thing and and advertise the products and develop new things and take over, and keep it going. Because if you lose a brand or you discredit a brand, then then it's very hard to get it back up again. But if you keep it going, this brand is still in business under new management, but we're going to keep going. All these things will keep it in the public eye and absolutely needs maintenance as much as a field does, for sure. And the same with, if you have a company nowadays or a software system, whatever you like, anything, if the same principle applies, that it's something that will be productive but needs maintenance, do it.
Right.
So why does Rav say no? What on earth could be the problem when we've not heard the guy died? So Rav Amar Ema Ridan Dilma Mafsit Lehu. And we actually have in recent history have situations like this. The worry we have is that if you've not heard that he's died, so what might this person sharecropping the land think? So I've not heard he's died, so chances are he's going to be back soon.
And so because it's field, you might feel that person, that relation has been set down. But it makes it sense. The Beth Din said the relation has to go down there. and
We
start-
order you. It is
Yes.
it is a court
Right,
order
so-
to cultivate that field.
And they haven't sure the person has died. So why have they done that?
Well, because the only thing we know for sure is that this field's going to ruin, and neglect is damaging it, and we want to save the person
But
from
the
neglect.
person hasn't. We found out he's not. Hasn't been. It's not dead.
Well, he's been abducted.
Yes, but he's not dead.
We just don't know.
So it's his
He might be.
property still.
Yeah, so if it's his property, you want to maintain it for him. If it's not, if he died,
So, come on, Judge.
So the heir will have a degree of resentment and won't put the effort in that he would have done if it belonged to him stun.
okay. So if it, that's very nice. But I'm gonna take it slightly in a slightly different direction. But yeah, you hit it. So yeah, if the heirs heard that the guy's died, he will assume he's died, and therefore he will look after the field like his own. But he's obliged to work the field. The order basically said you must.
Just remain busy.
The basically said you must work this field, and if don't, we will distrain your assets. We will punish you or whatever. So he's got to work the field. What might, if he's not heard that the guy's died, what might he do? He's got this field for, let's say, he doesn't know, maybe a year, maybe 5 years. What would you do?
Or if they say he's got to work the field,
Yeah,
hasn't he? And he's been looking after his own business.
Yeah.
And he says, look, I'm barely making enough of my own business.
Employ somebody.
I can't afford to
Employ-
somebody to.
yes, you can, because you'll owe them their wages, and when they get produce out in the field, you pay them from the wages. That's not an excuse.
He can't say, but I don't know whether.
Hire an expert, hire a farmer. There's people around that. But yeah,
If he works the land as an heir,
yeah,
but the fact he works the land, would that give him an interest in the land?
absolutely. If it's my land, he'll look at it like the apple of his eye. But what if he thinks the guy's going to come back in 5 years?
And what I'm saying is it a legal interest?
Oh, not quite, because you don't know for sure he's dead.
Okay.
It says, my reading, we send it down to look after it. It doesn't say it
So you
belongs to
couldn't
him.
establish an interest after time then. So he's like,
No,
you
I
don't
don't-
know when he's coming back.
Yeah,
Three,
indeed.
4 years.
It's
down
a
the road.
holding pattern.
So it's guaranteed it won't be a dead loss.
Very good. yeah. You'll have to see what crops up. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
done his favour. I've got after you, sir.
There's just cut across somebody's lost at sea.
Mhm.
Yes.
Because you're now into
yes.
different areas.
No, but it's
Uh,
yeah. The Mishnah
So the
talks
wife,
about this.
is
Yeah, but
really difficult.
an aguna and all
Yes.
these terrible sad situations.
Yeah.
And there's Mishnayos and Gemaras that talk
Yeah.
about what sort of testimony will enable a possible widow to remarry.
Yeah.
It's all very sad. But we're not talking about that level of test. It's just Shomer boy. We
Can't be
heard.
extended.
It's not Eidos. Yeah, but
Yeah.
to look at your field, it's fine.
But are we, to come back to your question, are we perhaps going along the route of, well, I've been sent here, I've got to do this, but I'm not really that interested, so I'm not going to keep a careful calculation of what's.
No, Beis Din will oblige you. They'll say you must keep a proper cheshbon. You must keep an account. But what would you do if you're an unscrupulous person and you didn't know the guy had died? So for all you know, he might be back again. What would you do?
You let it out to someone else. Or
You're not allowed to.
You're not allowed to.
You must look after this field.
You massage the results.
You're not allowed to.
Ooh.
Forensic accountants on a Beis Din.
How have I?
Criminal mind there.
I
Criminal
did law
mind.
for long enough.
Oh, I know.
No,
Funny,
this
so
is
you are.
trouble comes from
Think
something.
of me anywhere else.
Yeah, literally.
I know I do. Oh, I've learned the Gemara. So
Ah,
I looked at it.
shoot.
So here's what you do. So I don't know how long I'm going to have this field for.
Mhm.
But when you got a field, every few years you have to leave it fallow. And you can only put in a certain amount of fertilizer because you'll dry the land out. That's what in North Korea they fertilize the land, in an irresponsibly intensive way, and the land was ruined.
Jeff Rutal.
I'm sorry.
Jeff Rutal invented that. Jeff Rutal?
Jeff Hotel.
Yeah.
The irrigation.
Correct.
Oh,
That's where it
okay.
came- That's where it comes
Was that a North Korean person?
All right, but yeah.
He wasn't Korean.
No, he wasn't. He was English.
I think okay, right,
That's where it comes from. You alternate your fields.
right.
You-
Yeah,
Before
crop rotation.
that,
Yeah. So you have to
middle
manage it.
ages. I had to teach it. Yeah.
So you have to husband the land in a responsible way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're only there for the short term, I'm gonna make a fast buck. I will ungestop this field with fertilizer. That's the technical agricultural term. I will bung it up with fertilizer. I will extract all the produce I can for these few years. And then when the owner comes back, I'll walk away.
Would it be a jolly good fellow?
The Beston should be watching it.
Jolly good.
Right.
Beston should be watching this.
Well,
They're in
basically,
charge.
but they can't tell because they can't watch all. They say, "Yeah, I'm working the field." We don't know exactly what
You
it
see
is.
the accounts.
I'm sorry. See the accounts. That's reputable, but you can't watch it that closely. And the worry is, says Rav, that if you send somebody out, even an heir, when he's not sure if he will actually be inheriting this land for the foreseeable, he's just gonna make a quick buck, and devil take the hindmost.
Well,
When-
he's got a right to do that while he's looking.
no, he
at
hasn't.
it.
No. I'm sorry, I'm being a bit harsh. No, with due respect, he has to look after this land.
Look
he can't
after
just-
it, but is he not entitled for his time and energy, besides his own business he's got,
Yeah.
to have some benefit from what he's
Oh,
doing?
absolutely, yeah, that for sure. But Rav's worry is that Mafsid Lahu, he will damage the property to make a short-term gain. He will not, because part of running a field is that from time to time you let it rest and you forego a year's produce so that it's good for the long term.
Basically, would see through that.
Apparently not. Apparently it's too hard to oversee that to that extent.
If
They
you
can't-
let it go to rack and ruin and just keep it good while it can make money. And
Yeah, that they can't. Apparently they can't see that. That's what Rav's worry is. Dilma Masidu, he'll not do that. Now Shmuel is going to say like you, and like you, you'll see. Okay, Shmuel says there is a sufficient level of accountability here that we can trust somebody who may or may not be an heir. But Rav disagrees. So it could be a question of the reality.
Always disagree, rubbish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they loved it. You know,
Yes, obviously.
they liked arguing. One I think it was Rabbi Yochanan when Shlokish died. He had a new chavusa, and he said the problem with the new chavusa was he always agreed with him. And he said, I want somebody who argues with you, you know, because that way you can get to the chat. But if people agree all the time, if you just keep validating what I say, you'll never challenge me. I'll never know if I'm right or not because you just say I'm right. That's no good. So that's how dynamic works. It's an affectionate,
Yes.
sort of, you know, collaborative.
Big Shammai, Beis Hillel.
I've said the same again.
Although majority we went with Beis Hillel.
Yeah, but they married into each other's families. Yeah, it was that cordial. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so Rav says the worry is if you allow somebody to look after a field where we not heard that the owner's dead, then he may just exploit the field and damage it in the process. Whereas if you've heard that he's dead, Rav concedes that then he thinks he's the heir, so he'll take a longer term view and look at the field properly. Shmuel argues with that. With Shmuel Omar, now we are now, just a second, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wide lines down, last word on the line. With Shmuel Omar, my reading, Shmuel says, even if you've not heard that the owners died, send somebody down there. What about the worry that the person you send there might damage the field as he tries to extract a short-term gain? No. Since we've already seen that you said that we set up a sharecropping arrangement where this potential heir who cultivates the field charges as a sharecropper. In other words, he'll sell all the produce at the end of the day. And let's say he makes, I don't know, £10,000. So, and the normal rate for a sharecropper is, let's say, a quarter. So he'll retain 2,500 for himself and keep the remaining 7,500 in escrow for the abductee. So when he should return, he'll have this money waiting for him. That's the deal. Now, obviously, Beis Din have oversight of the figures. And if they detect an undue profit year on year, they'll say, we know what you're doing. You're running this field into, pardon the pun, running the field into the ground. You're just doing it over to get every penny kind of out of it in the short term with no view to the longer term. And therefore, we will intervene and stop you doing that. Or
Somebody can press on.
It might well do. Yeah, it's a very corny pun. No, not rich. So this is how Shmuel can take a more interventionist approach and allow somebody to be sent down to look after this field, even when we've not heard that the abducted owner is dead. Because there is a degree of
Is
oversight.
there a period of time you can, if there is a period of time in Jewish law, isn't there? Someone who's not sure has died, you have to wait, a wife has to wait, and things like that.
I think it depends on the circumstances. So I think maybe I'm not sure. I mean, if someone just disappeared, we don't know. I don't think that the lapse of time in itself is a reason to declare them dead. They may just as somewhere else.
You have that with your the submarine.
Oh,
At a certain point,
yes.
I think they were running up together and decided. But then somebody hired the guys who found the Titanic,
Right.
and they eventually found the submarine.
But the people were dead, presumably.
Yes.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
so it was correct.
Right.
But, it was a gamble simply because nobody knows. They thought they'd been captured by the Russians.
Like David said before, I'm sure I've heard somewhere, there's a certain amount of time when you don't know if somebody's disappeared before you decide, well,
I mean, the judge will have to
7 years.
7 years. I was just saying, in nuclear, it's 7 years.
Mm.
If there's been no word from them after 7 years, we assume them to be dead.
But in.
I don't know that applies to halal. I mean, it depends. We look at the circumstance. So, for example, if somebody disappears at sea, then we assume them to be dead, by and large.
But there's an argument on that, isn't there? Where
With a lake or a sea.
Southend,
Yeah.
Because you had this with the Titanic. There were a lot of halachic issues on that ship.
Was there Jewish people on it?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
plenty. We got into
Ah,
the
yeah,
shul
yeah.
relations.
You've had people
So-
where they've been on cruises and they've
They
been
have to
away
make the
and
decisions.
they've been buried at sea.
Yeah,
And I know one of the Simcha Kozlovitsky from South Africa was on a cruise. And somebody died and he did the.
he did the Levaya
he
at
did
sea.
Levaya
Nebuch,
and they
Nebuch.
buried at sea.
If you're buried at sea, what happens if you can't swim?
Well, I'm afraid that you're not getting anywhere anyway. It's it.
You're in
It's the
trouble.
kitchen sink for you.
Yeah, yeah,
I think Malcolm, you'll find you're in deep water.
yeah. Oh dear.
Yes.
And I had a call from Diane Enshaw, Zechariah Bracha, when after there's a terrible
Before or after?
before Bill after the Ladbroke Grove crash in the late 90s. There was a terrible train crash in Ladbroke Grove, and many people from Reading had been on that train. So he called me to ask if anybody from my shul had been on the train, because it would be a Shaila Baguna, if there are any husbands on the train. And I saw this terribly harrowing account of the aftermath of the crash, where journalists heard phones ringing inside the train, because it was people trying to call their deceased relatives. And they never they died in the train crash, but their phones still worked. So sad. They're
You had
calling
this
in.
with 9/11, didn't you? Where people actually contacting their Rabbanim to make sure that they had the divorce was actually running because they knew that they had a few.
They're going to die. Shouldn't know such things. Dear me. Okay, so
Oh, well, they know.
yeah. So Shona on my reader, Shona said you cancelled it. I came down my master and fine. Okay, so now we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines, 8 wide lines down the very last bit of that basically. So now we're going to try and bring a proof one way or the other, in this case from a brisa. And we know Rav and Shmuel are Amorai. Well, Rav was a very late Tanos stroke, very early Amoira. So at a pinch, you can say Rav can argue with a brisa or Mishnah, but we don't like to say that if you don't have to. Shmuel was a bit junior to him, therefore an Amoira. And we're going to bring a brisa, which means that basically Rav and Shmuel can't argue with that. Mesive, so a question was posed against this argument between Rav and Shmuel. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Rabbi Eliezer says, Mimashra shenema, from the fact that it says in the pasuk, v'chara api v'harati eshem, my anger will be kindled against you. God says against the Jewish people, and I will kill you. Yodea ani, I know, sheneshosehem almonos uvenehem yusemim. It follows, Rahman Islam, if the Almighty chooses to put us to death, that our wives become widows and our children become orphans. Ella, in that case, Ma Talmud Loima, why does the pasuk go on to say, your wives will be widows and your children will be orphans? Surely we know that anyway. If God says it's about I think it's where if you oppress the widow and the orphan, then God will kill you, and your wives will be widows and your children will be orphans. But surely, Rabbi Eliezer asks, it follows on naturally that if somebody's killed, then their wives are widows and their children are orphans. Rahman Islam. So why does the Torah need to spell this out? So Rabbi says, "Okay, you tell me, God."
No. Me, little me.
No. God.
They become widows and orphans, provided you know that the person is dead.
Close, but not quite.
Silver star, not gold one.
Just a second. In fact, yes, you're right. I think Malami, this teaches us, says Rabbi Eliezer, that their wives will seek to remarry and they will not be allowed to. So it's an additional aspect to this terrible punishment for oppressing the widows and the orphans, that the people who do so will be killed, but their wives will be in a perpetual state of widowhood. They won't be able to remarry because we won't know for sure that they're dead.
Then you've got the counter argument. Why should they suffer?
So that's that we can argue the toss on that. That's a whole Aguna question. It's a separate conversation. As we'll never get through that. But yeah, but there are answers, but I don't do it now. Uvenehem roitzin leire lenichsia vihen, and their children will want to go to take possession of their parents' properties.
Mhm.
And they won't be allowed to because we won't know that they're dead.
Yeah.
So that seems to go like Rav. Because Rav says when somebody disappeared, we don't allow the heirs to go down to the property. So Eliezer goes like Rav, it's a cash on Shmuel. Because according to Shmuel, who says you do send somebody down, then if somebody's disappeared, what do you mean? We don't allow them to go down. We do allow them to go down and take care of the property.
I still don't understand Rav's philosophy.
So Rav says don't send them down because they might exploit the situation and damage the field for the longer term.
Right.
Rabbi Eliezer says, I got this posuk which teaches that if somebody disappears and is suspected dead, but we don't know, then you don't. You don't. Because it says, what does it mean? Why does the Torah add your children will be orphans? It means that they'll be orphans in as much as they won't be able to take possession of your property.
But isn't there a counter one on that one that when it mentions about orphans, it's so that if you deal badly with orphans or widows, you get schmeiced by Hashem.
That's it. That's exactly the situation.
Yeah.
So this part of the punishment is so the punishment is that the bad person in the situation will be killed, but his family won't know, and therefore his wives will be doubly widows, in that they won't be able to remarry, and his children will be doubly orphaned, in that they won't even be able to take possession of his land. So they'll not have, as it were, his assets caring for them. They'll be completely vulnerable. They'll not be able to walk into his field and say, this is mine. Now, according to Shmuel, that's a problem. Because according to Shmuel, if somebody's parent dies, and somebody's parent disappears and we don't know what's happened to them, we do send them down to the field.
This is what I'm
So you've got it. So that's the kasha. The kasha is.
So I don't agree with the other two versions.
And you're in good company, because Rabbi Eliezer says you don't send them down to the property because they might damage it. Well, that's the curse of this posuk, the warning, the punishment of this posuk, the admonition. And Shmuel says, wait a minute, in such a situation, you do send them down. So according to Shmuel, the drush of Rabbi Eliezer doesn't make sense. Rabbi Eliezer says you can't send them down. But according to Shmuel, you would.
But where does he get that? They may ruin the property.
You mean Rav?
Yes.
Rav presumably has seen such things happen, like we saw in North
Well,
Korea.
you can't assume, as Reb Shlomo, every case is different. You can't say, oh, it's similar to the previous one, but it's got different.
No, but working on the basis of experience and past precedents, if you like, and maybe, excuse me interrupting you, but maybe he's seen this sort of thing in the past and said, we can't let that happen again, because we're opening ourselves to criticism and there's vulnerability. People, and so that's how he's for.
Yeah, it's a very. You can see it's a very finely balanced point.
Yes.
I can't get convincingly because it's an argument Rav and Shmuel. So whichever side I take, you can take the opposite one. I'm stuck on this one. All I can say is this point is argued. That's all I can say.
What I'm missing out today is on you're right, but you're wrong.
Depends if I'm Rav or Shmuel. So yeah, another 8
In the
minutes.
20th century, this has been absolutely critical, this area. We've got the Holocaust, we've got total wipeout, we have no idea at all. How on earth do you sort it out?
Yeah.
Somehow,
Very good
from
point.
this,
There were tragic situations that came out of it. You know, sometimes generations later, people realized that somebody who was thought to be dead was in fact alive, which has implications for the yichus of the children of a woman. Let's say she thought her husband had died in the Holocaust, and then generations later he comes back. So now we work it back and say actually, when she remarried after the Holocaust, she was still married, so her children are mamzerim, so they can't marry, and their children mamzerim too, and they can't marry, and it's all terrible.
And then how would have she been able to get married if it wasn't? in
It's
agreement with the
really,
Beis Din.
it's
If
really,
it was in agreement with the Beis Din,
yeah.
then how can she be guilty of anything?
So sometimes the Beis Din will make assumptions based on what testimony they have.
But even that.
No, but if they years ago said, yes, you can marry now.
Yeah,
And just 30 years later, the original husband.
because
said, "Well,
sometimes the Beis Din can be misled by the evidence, or witnesses might have been
but
mistaken or lying.
Everything was done with them. How did they do such a situation?
Because they
How
just
can the children say
can-
that the new children are
because
married?
Ain the Dine and the in a row, the Dine only has what his eyes see, and if they're given a what seems a credible testimony, they have to go with that
But if they at the time did that, how can he call these children mamzeras?
because they are.
But then you,
She's an OCS, and that's the end of the
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
I had a case where I was involved with where somebody was trying to, I've got to be very careful how I put this, claim Yiddish parentage,
Yeah.
would normally be very easily, but they came from Europe, and when the Germans were getting close to town, they even burnt all the records, the lot. So there is nothing left, most of which girls of them were killed anyway, but there's no written evidence of any sort whatsoever.
Yeah, and then it's really hard. Then you have.
It's
I mean, I know I've spoken to the Beis Din about this, and they say that they will ask things like, what were there Jewish traditions in your family? What happened on Friday night? Did you have special foods at
Yeah.
special times of year? Just to discern some sort of thing. And I heard about a case where there was a woman who was she thought she had Jewish parentage, but she wasn't sure, and she wanted to marry a Kohen, and a Kohen is not allowed to marry a convert. So the only way they could do this was to prove her Jewish heritage. They couldn't have her do Gerus L'Chumra to convert just being a Seisai. That was not good enough. So they looked into the records of her hometown, so in Eastern Europe, and they found a document for her, I think her mother's mother. And it was a document from a time when they used to record families,
Yes.
not only by name and address, but also by ethnicity. And there was a single initial for how they said Jew in that place. And they ruled that this woman's maternal daughter's daughter was Jewish on the strength of that initial by some official in the 20s or whatever it was.
We've now got another problem with DNA. Somebody asked me from Liverpool, they were researching somebody, thought nothing to do with him, and it came up as 70% Ashkenazic.
Mm.
And this person had no idea that they're Jewish at all. So, well,
Yeah. So we won't rely on DNA to say somebody's Jewish, and I've already looked at it for somebody. By and large, we won't do that.
It's funny you say that. On Sky documentaries at the moment, there's a program called The Jewish Nazi
Oh yes,
about a young boy.
right.
I won't go into it all, but he was brought up by Nazi soldiers because he was on his own in the whatever it was, the snow and everything like that. And he went through his life as a youngster, keeping his mouth shut that he was Jewish, but he was. And then he went about finding his Jewish heritage, and he did, and the Jewish people did not believe him.
Wow,
It's fascinating.
hard.
It's
It's really
very
hard.
similar, yeah.
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 All sorts of
In
things
your
happen.
case, Michael, the
What
big
is
question
DNA
is,
not
was he an
showing?
evidence supporter?
Yeah.
Because you can have somebody, for example, who's 99% Ashkenazi Jewish, but if there's if the mother generations back isn't Jewish, then all that weighted DNA won't help. This was in the famous JFS admissions case that went to the courts. The argument was that Jews aren't a race, as you see, because Judaism is determined by halacha, not by racial grouping. And for all I know, I'm descended from a bunch of Cossacks. I don't know. The only person who knows for sure that they're
That's
Jewish.
David, he was David.
The only person who knows for sure they're Jewish is a convert.
Nothing personal.
The convert has a Beis Din's certification that they're Jewish. Apart from that, we don't know for sure. We just go with Chazak.
Interesting, in Israel,
Yes.
they can't do any DNA testing in Israel. So it's always done outside of the Because
okay.
there's so many complications because the Russians and things like that.
Right.
That they don't do it in Israel.
I knew a guy in many years ago, not from this community, who was African, and he claimed to be descended from the Ethiopian Jews on his mother's side, but he was from a different part of Africa. And again, the only way the Beis Din could deal with it was to say, what traces of Jewish tradition do you have, or did your grandmother have? And then that's not enough per se necessarily, because you have some African people who aren't Jewish, but who revered the Tanakh, and they will get practices from, let's say a Christian Bible, say from the Old Testament, say this is what Jews do, and they'll do it in good faith because they want to, no disrespect to them, but it doesn't mean they're halakhically Jewish.
Yeah.
So you've got to be very careful.
Father was on was in the British Army during the war, and towards the end of the war, he was an interpreter with his unit, and he was called out by the officer of the guard one Friday night, just after the war ended, and one of the German POWs wanted to speak to Dad. He wanted to speak to a Jewish soldier. So, someone comes up to Dad. Dad didn't know what's going to. He says, "Shalom Aleichem." Dad says, "Aleichem Shalom." So he then had to interrogate him in a nice way. He was Yiddish. He decided when the Germans were advancing that the best way to escape was to join the German army.
Wow.
So this is on the Russian front. Somebody gave them real papers from the battlefield. For 3 years, he hadn't been medically examined. Now that he was a POW, he wanted to try and get out. Dad says, if I do anything official, I wouldn't survive till tomorrow morning. But I know you're going to be released in a few weeks anyway. Then make your way to the Jewish refugee authorities. But he was 100% Jewish, this guy. And he just kept stum for
Amazing.
3 years.
Amazing. Wow. Gosh. Okay. Wow. All right. So, this brisa of Rabbi Eliezer seems to be a cash on Shmuel, because Rabbi says when somebody, he wakes up from an apostle, that in this terrible situation, the father is abducted. We don't know what's happened to him. The son may not go down to the property to work it. So that seems to be like Rav and against Shmuel, because Rav says you can't, and Shmuel says you can. So how will we justify Shmuel according to this? Amar Rava, leired v'limker tanan. You've got a wrong version of this Mishnah or Brisa. It means to go and sell it. We won't allow him to go and sell it, but we will allow him to go down and work it, which would fit with Shmuel. So you occasionally Rava maintains occasionally a Brisa is slightly wrongly passed down, and you need to adjust it a little bit. So that's what Shmuel would say. Leidveli eimanichin esbneihem eimanichin oisan eimanichin oisan nehen. 2 seconds. Bneim roisin later next avihen later velimko next avihen ve'ein manichin oisan. That's how you read it.
Why would a son or sons not? The father's disappeared, the mother's distraught, they're distraught. And then why won't they want to go and work the field when
They absolutely want to, but the question is, are they allowed to? According to Rav, they're not.
But I don't understand. Somebody as close as children.
Yeah.